other half of our main event, Anthony Smith. Anthony, thanks for joining us, sir.
Man, I don't know why you got to say it like that. Always just pointing out that I'm late. How you guys doing?
We're happy to see you, Anthony.
I'm happy to be here, man.
Kicking off the first question is going to be James Lynch from The Score. James, please go ahead.
My man.
Hey, Anthony, how's it going? Good to talk to you. I'm sure you're thrilled that this fight was rebooked, but you were going to be fighting in your home state of Nebraska. Now you're fighting in front of no fans in an empty arena. Mentally, how different is the preparation for this fight knowing that?
You just got to figure out how to kind of like move your programming around a little bit, just because more the date that messed it up. But obviously I had to kind of get out of my feelings a little bit and back up and just, you got to realize that this isn't anybody's fault, but you can't help but feel like, man, what is it going to take? Like, I've been busting my balls for over a decade trying to get to a point where I could headline a UFC event in my home state. But, it's just, you can't help it. It's just the world is the way it is. There's a lot of people that are going through a lot worse things. So it does sound very silly of me to complain about something like that, because I'm still able to compete. I'm still able to do what I love for a living, and support my family doing that. So at some point I had to check my ego and just back up and just be fortunate for what I do have and what I can do.
They almost need to add another fight on your record with the home invasion you had recently. And I know there was a really scary situation of what happened. When this all occurred, I know you weren't sure what was happening with the fight, but was there ever a thought of not fighting, perhaps, just with something as, pretty scary as that situation?
Nah, not really, man. That's just not me. The UFC reached out and made it clear that they were okay if that was something I wanted to do and just focus on my family. But this is not me, man. I mean, would I really be Lionheart if I let something like that put me in a position where I'm going to back out of my previous, responsibilities and things? Like I say, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up. There's no contingencies there. It's not, I'm going to show up if everything's perfect or if nothing goes wrong. I'm going to be here. And I'm not going to let some psychopath dictate what I do and what I don't do. I'm going to keep on pushing forward. It's what I tell my kids every day, because they're still having problems. Like, you got to put one foot in front of the other, and we'll just deal with it day by day.
And how much training did you get at Factory X for this camp? Just because I know the travel restrictions, it's pretty hard to get around. What sort of camp have you had leading into this fight?
Well, I was doing a longer camp anyways because I'd been out for so long. So fortunately, I did do that. I started way early. I did the first 3 weeks in Kansas City with James Krause. I did the following 3 weeks in Denver with Mark, and then that's kind of when the whole world kind of shut down. So then the rest of the time I've been in Omaha, but I've got my work in with Mark and James. So Mark left on Friday, James left Omaha Thursday. So I've been able to get my work in with them still.
And I'm guessing no training with Ian Hughes. I know he's sort of left the gym. He's going to be training in Thailand now. I imagine you didn't get to work with him at all.
No, not at all. Ian was already gone.
Okay, gotcha. And last question, big fight, main event. Glover's a really, he's a tough guy to finish, but obviously the landscape of the division right now, do you feel like a finish would sort of put you in that mix right now? Because it's obviously very crowded at the top, outside of Jon Jones.
Yeah, man, there's nowhere to sit down at the top of the division. That's for sure, man. It's standing room only up there. I think a dominant performance and a finish over Glover would, I think it puts me in a position to fight whoever doesn't get the title shot, and listen, man, I'm a realist. I know that I didn't have the best performance against Jon, and I'm going to have to earn my way back to it. But I think that, if Reyes gets the title shot, I think fighting either Thiago Santos or Jan Blachowicz, I think that a win over one of those guys absolutely puts me right back into a title fight.
Thanks for the time, Anthony. Appreciate it.
No worries, buddy. Sorry for leaving you hanging.
And next up, we have Louise Green from MMA Crazy. Please go ahead.
Louise Green, my girl. Oh, she left. Damn it.
Louise, do we have you?
Oh, she's gone. Got sick of waiting on me. Damn, I was really hoping to see Louise Green.
We'll circle back with her. For now, let's move on to the next one. Damon Martin. Damon, are you ready?
Anthony, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I mean, just so you know, I'm just as excited to talk to you as Louise Green.
I appreciate that. We've talked obviously numerous times between the fight cancellations, the home invasion, obviously, so you're probably sick of talking to me at this point. But 2 days away from a fight, can you kind of put in context the chaotic nature of these last like 2 months of your career coming to this point? I mean, when it's all said and done, you got a book to write basically out of just these last couple of months.
Yeah, it's been crazy, man. Just even starting at the handbrake, like I break my hand, I'm all begging for, and look how stupid I look now. I was begging for time off before I fought Gus. Like after, like even the 2 or 3 fights previous, I was saying, man, I need a break. I need some time off. I need a break. And then I like, it's just like that's just typical. Then I break my hand, and then I'm out forever. And then I have the second surgery, and then they have to take the bone from my leg. And then I finally started getting back to it. I wanted to fight in February or like beginning of March, but I had to push that all the way back because I wanted to still headline in Nebraska. So then we pushed it all the way back to April. Then the pandemic happens, and then douchebag in my house, and this shit's just been crazy, man. So I think later on down the road, I think you're right, man. I think we probably do have a pretty cool book to get out.
How much does your experience and being a veteran and going through what you've gone through in your career prepare? I mean, nothing can prepare you for what you've gone through, but I mean, do you feel like that has been a help, that you have so much experience that you've been able to prepare, knowing, 3 different fight dates potentially? You always had the same opponent, but again, that even wasn't guaranteed. I mean, there's no guarantee what was going to happen. So, I mean, do you feel like that did help you, that experience, to deal with all kind of the craziness of this situation?
Yeah, for sure. I think just being kind of a grizzled veteran, and I think Glover's in the same position. I think we're able to deal with stuff like this a little bit easier. Like neither one of us kind of came up in the golden era of MMA. I've said this before. Like fighting in an empty arena in Jacksonville, Florida, is not going to be the weirdest place I've ever fought. So it's just kind of par for the course for the beginning of my career. Like it wasn't as pretty and as sanctioned and as put together as it is now. So, we've kind of just been there and done that. And this is, and even now going through the whole process now that I'm here, this is way better than anything I ever did at the beginning of my career. So this isn't even that bad. So I know, I mean, like the situations are kind of crazy, but I was still able to get my training camp in. I was still got really, really good working at home. I'm physically, I feel better than I felt in a really, really long time. I'm sharp. My conditioning is good. I'm healthy. I'm not too banged up. Like I'm not sore. And mentally, I'm in a good spot. Man, you can really. I mean, I don't know how much more you could ask for.
Yeah. You talked openly about, fighting with a bit of a chip on your shoulder when, people try to take away some of your biggest wins by talking about the other guy. When you beat Shogun, it was, well, that's not the Shogun that was champion, and so on and so forth. And when you fought Gus right after he retires, and, it doesn't take away the victory, but, obviously, when a guy retires like that, it does kind of take away the shine a little bit. Glover's a guy who's a veteran, fought for the title, and obviously been out there. But in a way, do you kind of enjoy having that chip on your shoulder, because it seems like you're always out there with something to prove?
Yeah, I think I've always kind of fought like that, and I think it's I don't drink my own Kool-Aid, like I don't believe my own hype. So I think a lot of it is I'm always trying to prove something to myself. Like I think sometimes, to be honest with you, there's a lot of times where I kind of feel like I don't belong. Like I just sometimes it's shocking that I'm still here, or that I've made it to this point. So it's always that, but it leaves me with this feeling of having to grind and continue to earn it and continue to push forward, because I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in this position. I'm a small town Nebraska dude that didn't have shit going for him, and I didn't even graduate high school. Like what sometimes it's like, what the fuck am I doing here? So I need to keep earning that and keep working towards that and keep making sure that no one's going to take that from me. So I think that's where the chip comes from, is making sure that I'm doing everything to stay here.
And my last question, Anthony, now that you are, one of those media folks as well on the side when you're not fighting, but also the light heavyweight division, everything that happens in this division does affect you, because as you mentioned, if you go out there and beat Glover, there's only so many options in front of you as far as opponents go. So I want to get your opinion. If you play matchmaker right now. Like, do you believe it should be Jones Reyes too, or in your mind, do you think maybe Jones Blachowicz makes more sense because it is a fresh matchup? If you're playing Joe Silva, or in this case now Mick Maynard or Sean Shelby, what matchup do you think makes the most sense for that title?
I guess for me, is when you start talking about what makes sense, I don't really know what makes sense, because I guess I'm not the UFC, so I don't know, like, financially what does that look like, timeline what does that look like. I think there's a lot of things that go into that. But who do I think deserves it? I think as much as it pains me to say it, I think Dominick Reyes deserves a rematch. I think that he did everything he's supposed to do. He went out there, he busted his ass, and gave John all he could handle it. And I think that if you ask 10 people, I think the majority of those people would say that Jon Jones lost that fight. On the flip side of that, I think Jan Blachowicz equally, well, maybe not equally, but he also deserves a title shot, But I think Reyes' claim to it is a little bit stronger, like Blachowicz has a win over Rockhold, like Rockhold hasn't won since like there's 25ers in the division that haven't ever seen Luke Rockhold win a fight before. So it's been a while since that guy's done that. And he lost to Thiago Santos, who's also floating around up there. So he does have a good win over Corey Anderson. I will give him that. But I think the way that Reyes went in there and did what he did, I think that he had something stolen from him by the commission, and I think that he at least deserves the opportunity to right that wrong. And I also don't think that he will win the rematch. I think that was the best Dominick Reyes. I think that's all he has to offer. I think that's as good as it gets. And I think Jon Jones tends to do better in rematches, and I don't think Reyes left anything in the tank for later. I think he emptied the tank, and that's all he's got.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it as
No
always.
worries. Stay in touch.
And up next, we'll have Mike Bond from Rolling Stone. Mike, please go ahead.
What's up, Anthony? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I'm interested to know, you just said a few minutes ago there that, you're feeling really good and everything. Everything can be, going better. We spoke a couple weeks ago. You admitted you were feeling a little run down, a little beat up. At what point did you kind of turn the corner and start feeling, really good again?
When we started shortening as you get towards the end of a camp, all the meat and potatoes were like right when I talked to you, we were like just getting towards the end of the suck, when it's just really, really tough and really hard, and your coaches are assholes and they don't give you a break, and you just, they're sitting over there. That's why I said that. But I was right in that suck, where you just grinding and you got to put your head down and no one really cares how you feel. Then you start moving on to where the training sessions are a little bit shorter. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. The contact comes down a lot, so there's not as much impact. You're not, not getting your legs banged up, and so you just slowly start to heal, and then the conditioning part of it ramps up. So you're doing a lot of conditioning stuff, a lot of fast-paced, low-impact type of training. So then you just start to slowly heal, and that's kind of how the peaking process works.
Gotcha. And you also said when we spoke that you were going to submit Glover. That's what you were aiming for. No one has ever done that before. I asked him about it. He basically said, bring it on. He welcomes that challenge. Do you still feel this close to the fight, that's how it ends?
Yeah, I think it can. Don't think for a second that if I get a hold of Glover's neck, he won't go to sleep. And obviously, Glover and I have tremendous respect for each other. But he jokes around, and you can see the smirk in his face when he's doing those interviews. He knows just as well as I do that if he slips, I will catch him, and he knows that. We have mutual training partners. We have mutual friends. We know some of the same people. He knows it, and I know it. And on the flip side of that, I know that if I slip, Glover can catch me. We're just two high-level dudes. But, if I could, that would be a nice feather in my cap to be the first guy to catch him in a submission.
Absolutely. And last question from me. You mentioned talking about the matchmaking of the division a little bit, a possibility of a Thiago Santos rematch. If you look at your Twitter profile, your pinned tweet is still the post-fight from that night, February 3rd, 2018. Is there something about that particular loss? Obviously, you moved up to light heavyweight since and everything, but that you still keep it on there to remind you of? And would there be something special to having that fight back?
Yeah. Oh man, I guess to everyone else, Tiago's he's the two-headed fire-breathing dragon, but Tiago is like, I don't know, he's like my mirror, kind of. Uh, I keep that tweet there because that was one of the lowest moments of my career, and I'm better than that. There's circumstances and sometimes things just don't go your way. It just doesn't. Sometimes it just falls, the cards fall in the other direction. So, but that's absolutely a fight that I want. And that's absolutely a fight that I don't think anyone else is asking for. So I think that's going to be go back and look at my career. When I got cut from the UFC in 2013, my first fight outside of the UFC was Josh Neer. It was a catchweight at 175 in the main event in BFC in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Josh Neer finished me in the 4th round. I changed a whole lot of things. I focused on getting better. I changed my mindset. I won 8 in a row to get back to the UFC. And on the 8th fight, I capped it off and I finished Josh Neer in under a minute. So that's how my brain works. Like, I'll come back to that. You know what I mean? Like, I had the fight and it went the way that it went with Tiago, but I know that I'm better than that, and I know that I can beat him. And I know that's what the fans want to see. And I'll circle back to that. And after that fight, I changed a lot of things and I got a lot better and I focused on a lot and I changed my mindset, and we'll circle back to that, and it'll be my next Josh Neer moment.
Yeah, and I remember going into that Neer fight, we did an interview, and you said your biggest motivation was to prove something to Joe Silva going into that fight. Do you recall that as well?
I do. Yeah, I do. And because that's kind of, Joe Silva was very much, what's the word I'm looking for here? He was very open about how he felt about people. And he made it very clear that he didn't think I was ready to be back. And I'd beaten every top prospect in the entire country. I'd taken every title that was available in on the regional scene. Like, I didn't know what else I had to do. And circling back to that Josh Neer it's a very easy gauge of where I was and where I am now. Like, at least at that time, like, here's where I was when he beat me. I won all these fights. I won all these titles. I beat all these dudes that you said that were ready for the UFC, and then I beat him. And took those titles, and then we circled back to Josh, and then it was very easy to see how much better I had gotten in that, in that 2-year span or whatever it was. And that's kind of how I know it sounds silly, but that's just, if I have a failure, I'll try to fix it. I'll do the best I can, and I'll circle back and I'll do it again.
Do you ever hear from Joe these days? What do you think he thinks of you now?
I don't know. I would be curious. I'm sure Joe still watches fights, and he's a fight junkie, man. So I would be curious to know, though.
For sure. Awesome. Appreciate it, Anthony. Best of luck.
Thanks, man. Take care.
And next up, we have Mike Heck from MMA Fighting. Mike, please go ahead.
Anthony, how are you, man? I feel like we're getting very reflective here with this conversation because, and I'm not trying to link you with Jon Jones, but with everything you've said, I think people say that there should be a 30 for 30 about Jon Jones and what happened throughout his career. And to me, I think an Anthony Smith 30 for 30 or a documentary would be equally, if not more fascinating, considering what you have gone through in your career. Like, I know you're focused on Glover and the task at hand, but do you find yourself like, in reflective points, thinking back on your career, like getting that short notice call back with the UFC? Now you're about to headline your 5th consecutive event. You've had a title fight with Jon Jones. You're not a braggadocious guy, but do you allow yourself to reflect back on that and just feel grateful about it, because it's really an impressive story?
It happens in really short spurts, and it tends to happen when it's kind of those dad moments, where we'll be at the lake or up in the mountains riding razors or fishing or out at the farm or whatever. And I'll just be kind of off in the cut and watching my family kind of just doing their thing. Those are kind of the moments that it happens where I've created this life for them, or at least the opportunity. I've given them the opportunity to live freely and do whatever they want. And to not ever worry about anything or what in the world just happened. There we go. Yeah, I've given them, the freedom to do that, and that's something I'm really proud of. That It's down to little shit, man. It's like to me, pumping gas and not looking at how much it costs is a luxury. You know, like it just wasn't always like that. Um, just little stuff like that. Like I'm grateful for little things, you know, and just paying the mortgage and not worrying about it. You know, like just little stuff and the freedom to be at all my kids' events whenever I need to be because I don't have to work a 9 to 5 like a lot of people do. So it's just moments like that. I'm super grateful, but I feel like if you sit down too long, it makes it hard to get up, and I don't want to sit down and reflect. I can do that when I'm all done.
And then last thing for me, if you go back and talk to the 2013 Anthony Smith, what would you say to him? Because it seems like everything sort of worked out the way you had hoped for anyways. But if you could go back and tell that guy something, even at the sort of the darkest point of that year, what would you say to him?
I would tell him that he was right, probably. I was doing a lot of bullshitting back in those days. It's kind of one of those fake it till you make it moments. Like I was saying the right things and it's like I was talking myself into it, but I didn't actually know if I was going to make it or not. I had no idea. You know, I'd fought up to that point to make it to the UFC. I made it about 3 minutes in my UFC career and blew my knee. So like, I didn't actually know if I'd make it back. But if you asked me, I'd have told you straight up out loud, like I'm gonna do this shit and I'm gonna be at the top of the world. But deep down, I didn't actually know. So I would probably just like, you know, tell him he's right. Like you'll be fine.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Good luck.
Thanks, man.
And that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Anthony.
Hey, no worries, man. You take care of yourself.